Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad podcast with Chris Finn, a production of P4S Golf. Welcome to the Golf Fitness Bomb Squad. My name's Chris Finn. I'm your host, and today I wanted to talk about Scheffler's footwork because everyone else is talking about it, and I think a lot of them are wrong. Actually, I know they're wrong. So I think it's interesting whenever we see something different in the game of golf, that everybody like flips out. They lose their mind. They're like, "Oh my God, that's so weird." Like, in reality, if you look at the actual biomechanics and the science of it, it's actually not weird at all. He's just using the ground a little bit differently. He's got a significant weight shift to the left, and actually nothing's left on the right foot. But we'll get into that more. So I think the thing that I want to talk about today is there's nothing wrong with the swing today. I think there's definitely thoughts and I guess kind of what I would say like yellow flags or asterisks that hopefully his team is working on with him and thinking about with him as we're talking about his longevity in the game. Being in his 20s, he's still young. But as he continues to approach 30 and into his 30s, the move that he's making definitely puts a lot of stress on that lead side. And so we'll dive into what all those stresses are and what that means. So if you watch his swing from front on, so the camera's facing him, so you're looking, basically from the side of him, right? So you're looking at his belt buckle. You're not necessarily behind them or down the line, right? When you look at that, when he gets to P5, so his trail foot doesn't actually start kicking backwards behind him until just after P5. And if we know and understand kinetics and how people use the ground, the peak vertical force you want to be hitting that at or before P5. So his foot, and the reason his foot moves, if you've ever seen, like, look at Google or go to YouTube and watch a video of somebody trying to swing a golf club on ice, right? You're going to see that trail foot go back and the front foot goes forward. That is a nature of how somebody pushes into the ground and their toe heel forces. So the reason his foot kicks back is because he has a very strong push in the toe heel side of things on his right foot. At the same time, he has basically shifted 100% of his weight and his pressure, So pressure and force are different, okay? He's going to get all of his weight onto his left side, which is why there's like nothing left on the right, and basically why that right foot kind of flies up off the ground. But that is flying back because of the toe heel force that he put into the ground with his trail foot. And then at the moment that you see his foot come up off the ground on the right side, it's because all of his weight has shifted. Now he's already applied his peak vertical forces. And he's on the left side, he's actually having to apply a negative horizontal force left side to stabilize him. And I think that's where, when you look at his left leg down, from P5 or lead arm parallel coming down through impact, if you look at his left side, people will make note of his ankle and how rolled out he is. Basically, in order for him to accomplish what he's doing physically, what needs to occur is he needs to, number one, have great lead hip or left hip for him, his left hip internal rotation. So if you look at him in slow-mo, you'll see how much that left hip continues to clear because he moves so much of his weight to his left side. If he did not have that left hip internal rotation, then we start to worry about back issues, knee issues. You can already see how much stress is going to go through those lateral ligaments on the left side of the foot because of how much inversion of the left foot he has. Basically, it looks like almost he's going to roll his ankle, right? So your concern as a player like that with that extreme of a move as they get older is he naturally is going to be more prone to losing mobility on his lead side, right? And so he recently has had a lot of the neck and shoulder issues. You start to wonder, hey, is that compensatory? Is that just overuse? Is nothing? Maybe it has nothing to do with it. But I think you start to understand this guy's swing as the top player in the world. You want to, on the physical side, have those kind of contingency plans, if you want to call them that, laid out. This is how this guy swings. This is how he is successful. how are we making sure that he definitely has as much lead hip internal rotation as humanly possible, to minimize the stress on the ankle, on the lead ankle, the lead knee, and then up the chain into the shoulder and the neck, as well, right? So does he have the rotary motion that he needs in the lead shoulder, and the spine, right? So those are all I think when I look at that swing, those are the things that stick out to me of wanting to make sure that those, number one, from a mobility sense, are present. Number two, I want to understand what his strength and power output levels are currently in his right and his left leg, and his lead and his trail leg. And how do we make sure we monitor the strength and the power outputs in the lead leg particularly, so that he's able to break that movement, basically slow it down, not like break it into pieces, but break like you're hitting the brakes in your car. How is he able to slow that down and control that in a safe manner? As the forces come up from the ground up through his body, and then as he's slowing down, ultimately stopping the follow through. And I think those are ratios that are very important that we look at as guys get older, in particular, because he's going to lose his elasticity, which is when we look at how much speed he can create. That's a result of force production or power production, which is how much force he can produce, strength, plus how fast he can produce it. And that's a lot of the elasticity. So as guys start to get old, he's 20, I think he's late 20s, or I guess technically could call it mid 20s, but the latter end of his mid 20s, elasticity is going to start to decrease, particularly as he gets into his early 30s. So there's going to have to be a bit higher reliance on his strength. In order because his elasticity, his speeds are going to tend to decrease a little bit. His force production will have to increase relatively to maintain the same speed outputs in terms of the club head speed. So, and then I think most importantly, when you're talking about longevity, his strength is going to have to make sure he's got better brakes as he gets older, if he's going to continue swinging at the speed that he's swinging and continuing with the same move that he's doing. So hopefully it's a little bit of insight. It's actually nothing wild about that swing. It's just that he gets such a shift to his left side that the toe heel force he obviously, I don't know his actual plate numbers. It'd be interesting to see how much toe heel force how much of basically a torque player, maybe if you want to call it rotational player, but basically how much toe heel force he's putting in relative to his horizontal and his vertical forces. And there's some players who that magnitude is a lot higher. He may be one of those players. And so when you combine that as one of his power sources, speed sources, with a strong shift to his lead side, so there's no more kind of pressure or weight on his trail foot, it just makes sense that foot's going to come back. Like I said, go watch on YouTube a golfer swinging a golf club, somebody swinging a golf club on ice, and you're going to see that same exact move of that trail foot. And that's just a result of toe heel force. So hopefully a little bit of insight there. He's playing some amazing golf. So hopefully he continues to be able to do that, and hopefully he remains healthy. And, like everybody listening, our number one goal is to help people play this game as long as possible. And for you, as well as Scottie and his team, and it really starts with understanding what the player needs to do in order for them to perform well, and then making sure your body is able to support that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully we diffused a few myths for you, and hopefully maybe you learned at least one thing today, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next episode.